Dorothy, the next poem that Conor's going to read is set in a hospital, I believe.
Well, the point about Martina is that she has had a very, very, very busy life. She worked for 15 years as a radiographer. She worked in Dublin, in the Mater and in Vincent's, and here in London in the Whittington Hospital. Only Martina Evans could make wonderful poetry out of something as mundane as radiography. Shakespeare didn't even try. And so Conor is now going to read to us a poem called X-Raying Feet.
When we were students at Vincent's, the tutor never touched feet. Her oval red nails checked the yellow request form, then dropped it back in the polished wooden box, a present for someone else. And feet were good practice for students anyway. Positioning not difficult. Just placed a steel plate under the naked feet, centered across in the rectangle of ticking light. Only we didn't like touching feet either. And we never knew when opening laces and buckles and zips would release a bomb or some bad surprise, like the workman from Ballinamona, who only washed the affected foot. God, are you going to do the both of them? Sitting embarrassed with a black foot and a white foot on the cassette. Even the clean ones left moist, anxious prints on the metal. Patients were just as relieved as radiographers, down in the underground hum of the Mater casualty, in the blood-soaked, alcoholic shrieking average 100 patients for one person to x-ray in one night, when feet were x-rayed through socks and desert boots. What are these? The radiologist might point to the metal eye holes of a boot projected across the phalanges or metatarsals, or the shadow of a rubber sole on a film the following morning, knowing already he was too late. The yawning 24-hour radiographer responsible was dreaming at home, the limping patient long gone down Eccles Street or the North Circular Road.
Wow, that is quite an insight into the life of a radiologist.
Radiographer.
Radiographer.
Horse of a different colour. Martina is coming next week to read to us from her current volume, which is American Mules. And there are two collections of poetry here. And Mountaineer Men, which is the second collection, is very different from the first because it comprises a story. It is a series of poems in a narrative, and it concerns the owners of a video shop, of a film shop, one of whom dresses as Alan Ladd, and his sister Greta dresses as Veronica Lake. And so we start off in the world of classic noir, but then we get into a story that just brings you along with it. The wonderful thing about this poetry is that it reads like a play or a novel. You actually want to turn the pages to see what happens next. Do you have something here for us, Conor?
Yeah, I'm going to read number 17 from Mountaineer Men. He was desperate every evening, standing at the foot of the stairs listening, hoping she might rise like Lazarus, go back to the pile of puce chiffon she left on the sewing machine in 1968. And he was a briar to myself and Greta. He said everyone was leaning on him, lying down reading library books in a filthy house. But we knew, when we heard the unscrewing of the cap on the naggin, we could relax, even if he was annoying, quoting from poems he learned at school, like an Egypt, like Alan Mowbray drunk in My Darling Clementine in 1948. The beauty of this world had made me sad, this beauty that will pass, he said to Greta. And then he'd go back to the bottom of the stairs again. McGraw the dangan who, Erdaka who, calling out to the old lady. I loved you from the day I saw you, kneeling to trace every old stiletto pockmark she left on the lino floor. She never answered. And then one day he went into the doctor, and he came back with a name. Dr. Jones, he said. He's after curing a load of them. He put the naggin to his lips. A load of what? Asked Greta. A load of woman, he said.
That's great.
As you read through, you gradually come to understand what's happening here. And the story is about two children who are growing up in an entirely dysfunctional family. The mammy the woman of the house has taken to the bed, and we're never quite sure why. The father is an alcoholic, but we don't talk about drink that much because the mother has told the children that he has brucellosis. And of course, if you come from rural Ireland, you know what brucellosis is, that it is a disease that cows get and is not really related to alcoholism. But of course, the rage of brucellosis is exactly the same as the rage of an alcoholic in full swing. But, Pierce, please don't think that Martina is just heartbreaking. She also makes wonderful poetry out of the stuff of life that we love. Style, clothes. She took me back to the careful getting dressed, parading to Mass on Sunday and checking out what everybody else was wearing as well. And shoes, particularly shoes. The title of the book is American Mules, and that's because there is a wonderful sequence about shoes, all kinds of shoes, sandals, boots. I wanted her to have mentioned Louis heels, which I remember from my teenage years, but the great thing about American Mules, the title poem, is the image of the suitcase being opened when the returned Yank arrives home. The American with the suitcase full of wonderful clothes and the mules, which are high-heel sandals, and you really need to have a bit of balance to be able to manage them. We won't read it to you now because we want you to come next week on Thursday evening and hear Martina read it to you herself, because again, Martina is a performer as much as she's writer. As much as she's a writer, she is. You will be absolutely enthralled listening to her.
That is, of course, next Thursday, the 25th of May. Yeah. And you will be on stage with Martina, interviewing her and
yes.
leading her on.
I will have the privilege of interviewing Martina, but we are there to hear what she has to say and to hear her read. And brilliant. I hope you'll come, anybody who's out there listening, because it will be a wonderful evening.
She's exceptional.
And there are 1 or 2 tickets left.
Yeah,
so
there are. So
get on to irishculturalcentre.co.uk.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you for your readings,
You're very welcome.
Conor.